Welcome to Beyond the Suit, the podcast that aims to push the current boundaries and conventional thoughts of those working in the legal industry and look beyond the suit, brought to you by Fintelligent. I'm your host, Zac Green, and across the podcast, I'll be speaking to legal professionals from all levels and backgrounds, opening a new door for insight into the legal world. You can expect conversations from inspirational people that aim to advise and offer insight on the lighter side of the industry, from pointers on progression and words of wisdom to funny stories that break the stereotype. Let's look beyond the suit. I'd like to wish everyone a very, very warm welcome for our very first episode of an exciting podcast we've just launched called Beyond the Suit. In this podcast, we aim to have interesting conversations with people throughout the legal industry and any fun stories along the way. Kicking off our very first episode, I've got a very, very exciting guest to share and talk with you today. She's been at this firm, Shoosmiths, for 9 years as their Senior PR and Communications Manager, Kara Shadbolt. And then across from me is the man himself, the person behind the company, two recruitment companies, that is, Fintelligent and Leaders in Care, Mr. James Fowler. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Zac. Absolutely delighted and very excited to be doing our very first podcast here in Shoosmiths' wonderful podcast studio. And just as excited to have a marvellous first guest in Kara.
I hope I live up to it.
100%.
Hello, guys.
I've absolutely no doubt that you that you will, Kara. Kara, you've been at Shoosmiths for nearly a decade now. Can you tell us a little bit about your current role and what that entails?
Yeah. So, PR and Communications, Senior PR and Communications Manager at Shoosmiths. I have 8 people within my team. We cover off PR for all of our sectors and divisions and our offices, and also legal directories and social media.
That sounds like a lot of stress you have. And in terms of, obviously, you've kicked off your 9th year with an amazing achievement. Shoosmiths has been crowned Law Firm of the Year 2022, an amazing achievement in its own regard. How has your role played a factor in the company receiving that award, and what has life like been for the firm after the award ceremony?
So, I actually wrote that award.
Congratulations, kudos to you, Kara.
But honestly, you know, the reason why we won the award was because of the amazing initiatives that have been put together by very many teams and people at Shoosmiths. So it wouldn't have been possible, obviously, to win that award without some amazing content to put in that submission. I mean, it's always amazing to win awards like Law Firm of the Year. Previously to winning Law Firm of the Year, we have won UK Law Firm of the Year at other award ceremonies. This particular one was quite poignant for us, actually, because it was Law Firm of the Year up against, you know, some real heavyweight law firms that are international. And I think it's a testament to how far Shoosmiths has come, really, probably within the last 10 years. Winning an award like that, and that's the level that we're operating at. So, yeah, amazing to win that.
Amazing indeed. As you said, it's such a cool achievement to have. You must be able to walk in the office and just sort of puff your chest and be like, you know what, I'm going in the office today at Law Firm of the Year. It must be, you know, a really incredible feeling. But your PR approach, you know, must have changed after receiving that award in terms of what your plans were before and now sort of after for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, as a PR person, winning an award like that, and I must say it was the Legal Business Law Firm of the Year award. Obviously, as a PR person, we like to splash that everywhere and put it in every single press release.
Fantastic publicity.
Get our hands on, absolutely. So that's, I mean, in a way, has it changed us? No, it hasn't changed us. We're still on our trajectory, but it's validation of the fact that we're heading in the right direction. But also it is, you know, it's fantastic for our people and for them to be recognised, and for them to be able to talk to clients about winning that award as well, because obviously we couldn't do it without our people and our clients.
It's an excellent achievement. In terms of your role, what responsibility does being the voice of the firm constitute?
Well, I guess it is a great responsibility, and there are a lot of people who you could say, are the voice of the firm at the firm. And we do train people to be the voice of the firm, and sometimes we have to be the voice of the firm ourselves in the statements that we put out. I think it helps actually having that corporate memory, being here for such a long time, so being able to identify what those key messages are for the firm. I think also it helps having a journalistic background because, in terms of crafting those key messages, it's knowing what will cut through. Yeah, it's exciting, but it's a big responsibility, of course.
Sounds super, super interesting. Congratulations on your 9-year anniversary as well.
Thank you.
One more to go to the big 1-0.
I want to take it back before the 9-year celebrations, before you making your way through this, law firm of the year 2022. Before all of that, you started off your career early, studying abroad in the Middle East, which is probably quite a big leap for someone from, England. Anyway, that's quite a ways away. And how did those experiences being in the Middle East just sort of shape your view on the international media landscape, and what have you learned from those experiences you can bring into your job today?
Well, I was really fortunate to study at the University of Exeter. I did a politics degree specialising in Middle Eastern politics.
I was going to say Exeter doesn't sound like it's in the Middle East.
That's far away. Yeah. No, it was an amazing opportunity that I had actually to go on a study trip studying Middle Eastern democracy. And obviously media plays a big role in that, and got to visit the studio at Al Jazeera. Got to meet lots of royalty, actually, ministers, and talk to them about the media. And met some editors, met the editor of Gulf News, which was really interesting in terms of kind of the stories that they were putting out there. Very different to what I'm doing now, but equally, very good for sort of peripheral knowledge as to how, international media, what the media landscape internationally looks like. So
if you can handle Middle Eastern royalty, then you can definitely deal with senior partners.
No, it's certainly, and now that experience, the worldly experience, has transcended to your job. Not only do you have offices in the UK, it's throughout Europe also, that incorporates a lot of your job. And, people tend to focus mainly on the UK offices, especially London. You've won awards in the UK region. But what's one thing about Shoosmiths on a European spectrum that people may not really know about the firm?
Well, we've got an office in Brussels, and that was opened a year ago in January. That specialises in kind of competition EU trade law. And actually, Shoosmiths has a lot of international clients. We have a very large international client base. There's a lot of people wanting to do business in the UK. There's a lot of people wanting to bring sort of inward investment into the UK, and actually this is a growing area for Shoosmiths. One example, for instance, is US private equity houses, for instance, we might act on behalf of. So Shoosmiths is really kind of making waves sort of internationally. We're constantly sort of finding ourselves up against kind of much larger firms with a international remit. It just goes to show the quality of the firm, really.
That sounds incredible.
On that note, what influence does the firm's culture have on attracting top talent?
Well, law firms can be known to be quite stuffy. And I'd like to think that Shoosmiths has a reputation for not being stuffy. One of our new values, actually, that was brought in very recently is being ourselves. So it's really important to bring your whole self to work. I know this podcast is called Beyond the Suit, but we don't actually wear suits an awful lot.
That's why you're the perfect firm to start off with.
Yeah, exactly. So even though we're very serious about what we do, and we pride ourselves in what we do it really well. We don't have to be wearing a suit to make that happen. Obviously, we will mirror how our clients dress, when we have meetings with clients, etc. But with regard to in the workplace, we do bring our whole selves to work, and that includes how we dress and who we are as people as well. So from a diversity and inclusion perspective, particularly, it's really important for Shoosmiths to be an inclusive workplace. So yeah, that's our culture.
Sounds like a modern, refreshing approach to law, which is excellent. In terms of your role, it's not just representing the firm, but also representing lawyers themselves. How does a lawyer go about building their profile?
So this can be done in a number of ways. I mean, social media is an obvious way, isn't it? Ensuring that you have a LinkedIn profile as a lawyer is a really important thing. Ensuring that you are writing about what you know from a technical point of view in an insight for the website, that's also really important. Expanding your network, making sure that you network with clients, but also that you're networking with peers because of referrals and things like that. So it's multifaceted, really.
Definitely the theme of that is being very outward looking and putting yourself very firmly out there.
Yeah.
I mean, online presences nowadays, with the rise of social media in all forms, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, people are kind of looking to get online, especially lawyers, to enhance their profile from point of a BD perspective. I mean, this is putting you on the spot a bit, and I can imagine that it's quite a difficult question to be asked. But if you had to build a rough step-by-step guide for maybe any junior lawyers or any people in their training contracts watching, what would that guide look like?
Absolutely get to know your BD colleagues, because everybody wants to progress their career. Career development's really important, and knowing how to develop business is a key part of that. So making sure that you're building up those relationships with your internal BD colleagues is really important. Social media presence, again, really important. So LinkedIn, making sure that you're adding all of the people that you're meeting on LinkedIn and building up that audience, so that when you put posts onto LinkedIn, and I say LinkedIn, it could be, any social media platform, but I think LinkedIn is currently, the most useful for people wanting to generate
yeah,
business.
Definitely.
So it's about ensuring that you're curating your own audiences for those social media platforms as well. I guess it's mainly around social media, networking, and making sure that the people within your business who can help develop your career and work with you that's a relationship that's being developed. So
I mean, I hope those listening at home had a pen and paper at the ready there, because that's the guide.
On the subject of education, our education system in this country, I feel, is archaically out of date. Law is introduced very much in like the latter stages of education. Do you think there's anything that could be done, to introduce law and other professions at a much earlier stage, rather than learning Pythagoras theorem and other things that we don't tend to use too much in our day to day?
Yeah, I think it's really important for young children who don't necessarily know any lawyers or anybody who works in a professional services to have the opportunity to speak to people who work in that field every day, whether that be accountancy or law. And actually at Shoosmiths we do have lawyers who visit schools and visit organisations to talk to young people about what it's like being a lawyer, because it can be very glamorous. There are lots of TV shows like Suits that will present a particular picture about what it's like to work in the law. It's not always like that. It would be very important, I think, to create these opportunities and to have these conversations with younger people, so that they can make an informed decision when they're old enough to decide what their career is.
I mean, lots of young people now, as mentioned before, they look at social media. People of all ages are on it, especially now people in the industry. Everyone has a profile, basically. I don't know anyone who doesn't have a profile on social media. It's quite insane. And is there a sort of importance for a lawyer to be on social media and be looking beyond LinkedIn, because that is the standard of a professional social media profile? That's the perfect app for it. But now people are using things like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Do you think those are also efficient ways of promoting yourselves, or you tend to lie more on the methodical approach of just staying on LinkedIn?
It depends what the aim is. If the aim is to reach out to potential clients, you need to be thinking about what the right platform for that is. If the aim is to learn more about career in law, that might be TikTok, from some law fluencers. It might be Instagram. But if you're a partner, then it will be LinkedIn. So yeah, it kind of depends on the audience that you want to reach as well. If it's information that you're wanting to share. So
On that note, how much of a lawyer's personality should they put out there when marketing themselves? How far beyond the suit should they be going when doing that?
I think at Shoosmiths, well, one of our values is being ourselves.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't ever kind of restrict somebody from being themselves. I think as long as they're not saying anything, that would be a real conflict with clients or with Shoosmiths values, then we'd just always encourage them just to.
I can't agree more. I think whatever you do, you've got to do it in your own skin, whether that's being a lawyer or a recruiter, a manager, or whether you're going through university. I think you've just got to be yourself to get the best out of yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, we've also seen like a rise in short form content, whereas LinkedIn, people, can post a picture, but they tend to write, a few statements. Maybe that's a couple paragraphs in the form of. But, TikTok, YouTube, people growing up watching it, their attention spans get smaller and smaller. So do you think that way of content, short form content, is still an effective way of presenting yourself as a lawyer?
Again, I think it kind of goes back to the audience and what you want to achieve. Short form is, we see it when we're uploading content to the website, for instance. We don't really want to be putting anything on there that's more than a kind of, well, it depends. If it's a thought leadership report, then it will be longer than a 5-minute read. But, when it comes to insights and bite-sized chunks, they tend to do really well, those pieces of content on websites. So I don't see why that would be any different for social media. But then, you can get that short form content on, LinkedIn and other places. Doesn't necessarily just have to be TikTok or Instagram.
I mean, this short form content allows for a lot of pleasure, especially for the viewers watching. And the lawyer, my bad, recently wrote an article on the rise of lawfluencers. Tough word to say, by the way, on one take. So do you see this as looking at that article, do you think it's a good idea long term for someone's profile as a lawyer? Because obviously we like to relish the short moments, the now and what's attractive in the moment. But looking back in a few years' time, do you still think it's an effective way to be as a lawyer?
I think if what they're saying is relevant and that it's not glamorizing, overly glamorizing, because sometimes it can be glamorous, to work in the legal profession, but it's got to show the reality of working in the law as well. So in terms of like the rise of lawfluencers, I think for somebody's long-term career aspirations, I don't see why that would be a bad thing if what they're sharing is authentic, and it's a fair representation of what it's like to work in the law.
So, Kara, how has social media altered the way the outside world views firms?
I think it's given firms an opportunity to really show the outside world what their culture is like. Instagram, for instance, is absolutely brilliant for showing the people proposition. LinkedIn might be amazing for showing what kind of deals we're involved in. And in a way, you know, when it comes to branding and things and brand communications, social media is really important for that too. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of getting across what kind of a law firm you are, the fact that not all law firms are the same, social media is a great vehicle for that.
Do you think that social media is actually changing the stereotypical perception of law firms and lawyers? And you know, you alluded sort of earlier on to that sort of stuffy perception, and you know, everyone's in pinstripe suits and you know, very, you know, maybe overly officious. Do you feel like social media is really kind of getting the personalities of the individuals in the firms, you know, kind of out there and sort of changing that perception?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at a number of law firms' different social media channels, I think within the last couple of years they've really stepped that up. I would say that Shoosmiths is doing particularly well.
Of course, can't deny that.
And we have an amazing social media specialist that works with us in our team, who's making that happen. But yeah, absolutely, it's the shop window for law firms, social media. So, yeah.
I mean, social media can be used, as we said, by absolutely anyone. We tend to focus when we talk about this topic more on the junior side of things, but obviously everyone's allowed to use social media. It's not just for people under 30, 35. So in that regard, like, what would you suggest senior lawyers should do and focus on when it comes to building their portfolio beyond their work?
Yeah. Definitely ensuring that they're staying in contact with clients and client touch points, not necessarily always through email, but through social media. That's quite an important way of, you know, ensuring that the client is, you know, at front of mind and that they know that. I think just engaging with BD teams as well on, you know, I mean, social media, for instance, is always changing. It's always changing. And there's, you know, new platforms and things. So BD teams should be aware of that, be able to guide and provide training as well to partners who, I say partners, but any senior lawyer who might not necessarily be as au fait with social media or other bits of marketing than, you know, a grad might be. So.
Do you have any advice for partners or senior lawyers, or even like, you know, I would like to think I'm not completely long in the tooth, but I'm probably more, if we look at myself and Zac's probably more at the cutting edge of social media. I'm a little bit more of a Luddite who's started to become much better at it as sort of times went on. What advice would you have for you know, for partners or people who, you know, maybe weren't born in the generation where it just comes naturally?
What advice would I have? There needs to be an interest there. There really does need to be an interest there. Some people just might not be interested. They might have their own existing way of doing things that might have worked really well for them right up until now. Things do change, and it's always should be within anybody's interest to always learn more anyway about the business development side of things. In terms of advice, again, it's just keeping in touch with BD teams and ensuring that if there's any training that you're undertaking, and just to be interested, I guess, in ways
to develop your profile.
Business development's changing.
I mean, I've just got a really quick additional question for me, because we're fixating on social media, and as we should be, it's, you know, taking over the world. But we mentioned that the senior lawyer, maybe the senior partner who didn't transition into law when social media is a thing, and we're focused on what they could learn from maybe what junior associates use. But to flip the question on you, what could junior lawyers take from more senior partners maybe who came up before the 2000s? What elements of their work there could they incorporate into today?
There's a lot to be said for the technical writing. That's still really, really important, and that's something that has been done for a very long time. Technical writing, ensuring that it's going on the website, having your name on that as well. I mean, it's really important to be seen, but it's also, perhaps more important just to be an incredible technical lawyer. What people want is a really good, high-quality service when they come to Shoosmiths. And absolutely, it's the showcasing of that as well, and what we can provide as a service. So, yeah, it's not just about the social media, but it's about the more traditional ways of marketing, I guess, that some of our partners have spent a longer time doing.
Would you have any advice for lawyers dealing with the media or trying to engage with the media to raise their profile?
Yeah. So in terms of when the media approach, it's definitely a case of go to the press office, and the press office will be the interface, basically, because it might actually be that the publication that's reached out, we might be trying to pitch something into them at the same time. But it is best practice really to go through a press office when journalists approach. In terms of reaching out to journalists, again, obviously through the press office, we do know, having been ex-journalists ourselves, a lot of us, how to approach, what time of the day to approach, what a pitch should look like, these different things. We don't just write press releases, we write pitches, we also do statements. It's, crisis communications, change communications, corporate communications, not just deals releases. So yeah, we can help, basically. Come to the press office, come through the press office.
The media is not always the easiest beast to deal with, and you will guide lawyers through, navigate them through the stormy seas of doing that.
Well,
basically.
some of us have been the media, so
it's no personal shots
having been the media,
poacher turned gamekeeper.
Looking in the future, obviously, coming back to Shoosmiths as a firm, maybe you can't give us too much, but anything you could possibly give away on interesting events that are coming up for you, or things that people listening could watch out for anything that comes along with your firm.
Absolutely. So law tech is really big at the moment, and we're seeing lots of articles on it in the legal press, loads on social media. We've actually written a book, and I say we, it's not me. I have not written this book, but our CEO, David Jackson, Head of Client Strategy, Tony Randall, and Head of Insight, Paul Caddy.
Fabulous. We will include the link in the comments when we put the podcast out.
Thank you.
Before we move on to our next section, one last question I want to close on. Obviously, being in PR, I imagine you've seen many sites, ways to handle things well, ways to handle things not so well. What's the biggest PR disaster you've ever witnessed? And this can be either by, obviously not naming any names, but either by a lawyer or a law firm, or if you want to select something maybe less controversial, just in the media in general.
Put you on the spot here.
Well, there have been occasions where other law firms PR teams have had to deal with situations that they've not brought on themselves. I do remember there was a case of a couple getting quite amorous, but there was a glass window.
Good word.
And that was picked up on and sent to legal gossip website and the rest of it. So that's not great, is it?
Never a quiet day at the office.
But it could happen to any firm. Not necessarily that, but that you can't control everything, can you?
When you're dealing with people, all sorts of things can go wrong, can't they? Yeah. And it's a good job we've got people like yourself there to save us when anything does.
I mean, how do you bounce back from that as a PR communications manager or yourself, or maybe all PR managers, to sort of have like a DEFCON button that they hit if something goes wrong in the firm? Is there a protocol if something goes really bad for a firm?
Break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah. Call Kara. Big red button.
Well, everything's escalated upwards and discussed. And one thing that I like to say to our team is that we're advisors. We're not necessarily facilitators. We're here to advise. We're not here just to write press releases and the rest of it. When these situations arise, we have the experience to know what the messages should be, particularly, the more senior people within the business development department. It's not just me involved in these conversations, but obviously play a large part in what should be said. It's just ensuring that, a statement's written and that you have a response.
And do you get obviously you're the PR manager, but do you get the final decision on what's put out, or does it have to be approved by a managing partner of the firm?
Depends what it is, because sometimes there will be an element of discretion. We might be able to say something and put that out, but we need to be comfortable with the fact that other people would be comfortable with that. If it's on a bigger issue, of course, it would have to be approved. But, it's fantastic working at Shoosmiths because it's recognised that you do your job and you're a professional in your own right, and that's what the advice is. There might be nuances that we might not be aware of, but it's good to have that conversation. That's how it works. Sometimes we approve, sometimes that's pre-approved by higher up.
Complicated. I want to introduce a brand new segment of this brand new podcast called Click to Agree. In this segment, we will be giving Kara phrases and she will have to click to agree. Obviously, this is a common phrase in the legal industry. You're probably used to signing documents, agreeing to them, reviewing them, and all sorts. So what we plan to do is a play on words of that and just give Kara statements and she can tell us whether or not she agrees with them. So we're catching you a bit off guard here. You can't prepare for this. So, as I said, you can either just agree to them or you can, provide explanations to them, as you please.
Can I do both?
Yeah.
You can do both, no problem at all. I will kick us off. So nice, easy one to start you off with. Every lawyer should have an active social media platform.
Agree.
That's a straightforward one. And next one is lawyers need a social media presence in order to develop their career.
Disagree.
How so?
I think that it would be possible, technically, to develop a career without a social media presence. However, I think a social media presence would help. So I don't think that a social media presence is necessary, but I certainly think it could act as a catalyst in a career development situation.
Do you think fast forward 10, 15, 20 years' time, that answer would change as, online and digital comes more to the forefront?
Yeah, because I think that we'll see the generation of lawyers changing and the norm changing. So, yeah, on that basis.
That is a wonderful segue into my next click to agree. Branding courses should be offered to junior lawyers.
No. Disagree.
Really?
We've got branding experts in-house, marketers in-house. So I don't think that lawyers need to be knowledgeable and experts in everything.
I mean, do you think now, I'd arguably say your job is now more important than ever, because with the rise of social media, everything you do is online and it's there forever. So you really have to watch what you say. So do you sort of think now it's even more crucial for people to sort of listen to their firm's branding teams and yourself and PR, because once they say something or put something out on social media, it's there forever?
I think so. And, we've got a great body of training documents that we have on our internal kind of comms system for people to access. So, yeah.
Well, the next statement here is an interesting one, and certainly one up for discussion, is that law firms should give more focus to those at a school level.
Agree.
And do you think that can be used? Obviously, you mentioned open day talks, but do you think maybe the subject of law could be transitioned into a younger stream of education, maybe not the primary school level, but an early secondary level education?
Maybe not to study as an option, but certainly have people come in to discuss what it's like to work in the law.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And do you think with the rise of AI, obviously it's a hot topic now, forms of AI such as ChatGPT should be used within the legal industry?
I think it's inevitable that ChatGPT will be used in some forms. I think there's no point in disagreeing to that because it will happen at some point, or a form of it will happen. And legal tech's not a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing. One of the things that's touched on in the book that I mentioned earlier is the fact that we need EQ, and that's not something that robots can have, computers can have. That's something special that lawyers can bring to, the work environment.
Interestingly, I saw recently that a number of tech leaders, I think Elon Musk was one of them, have signed something to say that all work on AI should be paused for 6 months while they reflect and see what the what the consequences are going to be on society. They were saying maybe up to 66% of jobs could be really heavily influenced by this technology. Whether that's eliminated or, the jobs be eliminated or changed. And I think when you've got people of that profile within the tech industry calling for a pause while we figure out how this is going to affect society, you've probably got to listen to it. And I think, whether it's law, recruitment, or other professions, I think AI is going to drastically influence how we do business in the future.
How do you prepare for that? Is there a code, obviously, because it's so brand new? Is that something that's on your mind, or you just have to take it case by case in terms of what softwares come out?
It's an interesting discussion because different law firms approach legal tech in different ways. Some will throw loads of money at it. They'll have their own legal tech teams and they will be expected to pay for themselves. Other law firms, it's more of a value add. These
it's an interesting
services,
area.
These services that are developed using legal tech are to enhance the client experience, not necessarily to directly generate income. And I guess, that lawyers are not expected to be, technologists as well.
Of course.
Every law firm has got a different approach when it comes to legal tech.
On a lighter note,
free
office food or company paid travel?
Well, we have both. So.
That sort of defeats the purpose of the question there. It's posed as a would you rather, and if you sort of, now maybe let's rephrase it, if you had to sort of drop one or keep one, then
drop one or keep one, it would be travel.
Would that be dropped or kept? Because Zac made that very open-ended.
That's a tricky one. Well, from a travel perspective, we don't do loads of travel because we do a lot remotely. And actually, when it comes to flying and things like that, we have a flight levy. We're thinking very consciously about
the environment.
ESG and the environment and things like that. So I would say keep food.
It's similar to us, actually. We offset 110% of our carbon emissions as a company.
Yeah.
I think, any socially responsible company at the moment has to do their bit for the environment, so that's really good
definitely.
to hear.
And from the company paid holidays, would you prefer those over company held events? I mean, what could potentially lead to more of a PR disaster having those two sorts of areas?
Well, company paid holidays, you mean holidays with colleagues?
Yes, so I'm sure a lot of
Or
firms.
events.
Yeah, so with holidays, firms, if it's a ski trip, something like that, and events, obviously a Christmas party or a summer do.
Is my annual leave affected by
Not at all.
the holidays? Oh gosh, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I think events would be good.
Do you think that could potentially lead to more of maybe a holiday could lead to more of a PR disaster in terms of
after taking you to Ibiza, Zac?
I think
it probably could. Yeah.
I'm glad that wasn't posed to me.
You never know. But we've had numerous ski trips and things here, for instance, and everybody seems to behave themselves. So
There you go.
Yeah, a couple of our colleagues have come back with broken collarbones and things
Oh,
from
Yeah,
dear.
all
ski
sorts.
trips before, so I'm always a little bit nervous someone's going to fly off the piste. Lawyers have a bad reputation.
Who's judging?
The outside world, just in general. Yeah.
There's some lawyers that are doing absolutely phenomenal things, you know, facilitating, advising on groundbreaking deals in technology, for instance, advising people who need help when they've had an operation that's gone wrong, supporting people who are going through divorce, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, lawyers don't deserve a bad reputation. I actually think it's not a yes, no. It's I don't agree. I
Put you on
don't
the spot
disagree.
there. I mean, this next one for me is probably quite a tough one, and it could be lead to a bit controversial, but not too bad. Is business development more important than billable hours? I told you it wasn't going to be too easy.
What comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, we thought you thought we were gonna let you off there, but we've thrown in a few.
Yeah. I don't know about that one.
It's a tough one because I guess it depends on what you value more in what side of the legal industry you are, whether you're a lawyer or in the media and PR teams, because it can kind of both have pros and cons, so it can be seen both ways.
Yeah.
Reputations take years to craft and seconds to destroy.
Agree. 100%.
That's why you need a good PR team behind you, isn't
Yes,
it?
but sometimes even a PR team can't save some people from disaster. But honestly, I have to say, not experienced that here, but you do see things in the news and you think, oh gosh, that's going to take a long time to get over. So, yeah.
And finally, lawyers are easy to get on board with PR and media.
If you have a good PR team, then yes.
Excellent.
And that leads us nicely. I think, you handled that really well. I think we put you a bit on the hot seat there. It was a nice and relaxed conversation. All of a sudden, it was the quick fire questions round. But you certainly handled it like an absolute champion. And that leads us on to our final, last question of our very first podcast. And that refers to, obviously, as you mentioned, the popular lawyer show Suits. Both of the main characters, that is Harvey Specter and Mike Ross, get on with each other like a house on fire, associate partner relationship. And there's a period in that series where Mike asks, other way around actually, where Harvey asks Mike, what would you do if you had a gun to your head, aka your back against the wall? And is there a moment in your career where you've sort of felt that there's a bit of your gun to your head and a way that you've really, gotten out of that?
Yeah. Gosh, well, it's a difficult question. I would say if I rewind to the very beginning of my career, I was a junior. I was working in a PR team, and I allegedly did something that wasn't quite right. I dispute that to this day, I have to say. I do. I dispute that to this day. But in that moment, I had experienced, I guess, somebody shout at me in front of the whole floor. And that I really didn't feel was right or professional. And I, at that point, somebody who's really quite young, did sort of stand up and say, I'm more than happy to talk to you, but in the office over there, not in front of everybody else. Mm-hmm. And it was that moment really that I thought, that's not good management, and it's really not it's not a way that I will speak to my people, I guess, when the time comes. So yeah, it was a learning curve for me, actually. I'm happy that it happened because it showed me what bad management was.
Brave to, when you're at the very, very start of your career and you've got someone who's an overbearing manager, trying to humiliate you effectively in front of the office. I think standing up for yourself publicly and
Yeah.
telling them where they should be having that conversation in the first place. That takes a lot of courage, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think they were purposefully trying to humiliate me, but I guess that was the outcome. But I learned a lot from it, actually. Now, I don't think it would have been something that I ever would have done anyway, but it is something that I do strive to be a really good manager, people manager. I think it's really important to have really good relationships with people in your team, understand them, and support them as well.
I think it's amazing how much, as we grow up in our careers, we learn from being managed badly by other people in terms of what not to do and, the right way to treat people.
And I would say that wasn't at Shoosmiths, by the way.
Okay, there you go. Just clearing your name of any wrongdoing, but
just clearing.
Whether it's Shoosmiths or not, I mean that was an absolute fantastic answer to a very last question of this amazing podcast as it comes to an end. And I think you've been an amazing guest for our first show, and certainly for the people listening out there, it's going to be a definitely interesting watch. Moving on from this podcast, where can people find you, know more about the firm? Have you got any information to share of where people can do that?
Yeah, I would say add me on LinkedIn. If you want to have a conversation, definitely. Visit Shoosmiths' website, www.shoosmiths.com.
Thank you very much, Kara. It's been fantastic having you on. And if you want to know more about Fintelligent, you can go to www.fintelligent.co.uk. If you are a lawyer who's looking for a move or maybe looking for an appraisal of the market and your options, please feel free to reach out to Mr. Zac Green. You can get him on LinkedIn or email him at zac.green@fintelligent.co.uk. And again, if you're a firm that's looking to add to your team, we are more than happy to help you find the best people in the market.
We really appreciate you guys listening. Obviously, a big thank you to James and Kara. It's been an amazing first episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching wherever you are. And that closes off the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Suit, brought to you by Fintelligent. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, like and leave a review. Every time you do, it helps others find the show. If you're interested in finding out more about Fintelligent and how we can assist you in taking the next step in your legal career or making your next exciting hire, head over to fintelligent.co.uk. Join us next time for more insightful conversations on Beyond the Suit podcast.